Well, the Warriors just completed a 5-0 homestand, and they did it all without Stephen Curry and Andrew Wiggins. The question now is, can they do it on the road? Kylen Mills and I will try to answer that and so much more next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Kylen Mills on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and much more at Kylen Mills. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at DogSurf Roadshow. The Warriors complete a 5-0 homestand. They didn't have Stephen Curry or Andrew Wiggins for any of it. They trailed by 17 to the Pelicans tonight. And I feel like they've trailed to all of these teams during the homestand. Maybe that's true, actually. Won the game by 9. Things look great, Kylen. Your immediate reaction to the Warriors winning their 5th straight game?
Immediate reaction is I'm pumped. I'm going to say what I tweeted after yesterday's win is that this Warriors team feels like a completely different team. That's the thing that's most mind-boggling to me. The Warriors are playing with energy, intensity, hustle. When they go down, they're not giving up. Versus earlier in the season, when we saw the Warriors go down, they came out and played terrible in the third quarter at times. They threw in the towel at times. It was clear just the body language was bad. They were hanging their heads. You just didn't see that fight. You didn't see that heart. And it's like it's a totally different team right now. It's crazy. And the fact the Warriors are doing all this and stringing together wins, even if it is at Chase Center without Steph Curry and Andrew Wiggins, is extremely, extremely encouraging. You also will be adding, hopefully, Gary Payton II into the mix at some point at or around the start of the postseason, which I now firmly believe the Warriors will be involved in. Just a couple weeks ago, I was a little bit questioning whether or not they'd be dealing with a play-in situation. Now, with the way this Warriors team is playing and fighting, the outlook is much, much brighter, Cyrus. And to me, it's just the heart and the hustle that stand out.
Absolutely right. I do want to quickly mention for the YouTube viewers, we can no longer stream the chat. Just in case, because people are going to be asking, so I have to address that real fast. Sincerest apologies. It's a locked-on policy. They've asked us to no longer stream it. So we're not dogging the folks out there who are watching and listening and chatting. We just have to follow the rules. But it doesn't mean we can't show some of the great comments, and we're looking at all of them. I promise you that. Kylen, I want to start off asking about Jordan Poole. It wasn't a raging pool party like it has been. Statistically, I don't know if you would look at the box score and kind of be impressed by it. 34 minutes of play tonight, 18 points below his scoring average. Shot only 3 for 13, was 0 for 5 from beyond the arc. But my interpretation of Jordan Poole's night is he's showing a maturation. And what I mean by that is on a night where his shot was not falling, again, not 1-3 went in, I feel like he kind of sensed that the shot wasn't there. And instead of forcing it, he started attacking the rim, had 12 free throw attempts, which this team has desperately needed all season. 7 assists, which I loved, especially missing Steph. You need that distribution. And maybe most importantly, I saw him play defense. He was aggressive out there. In fact, I've been really stoked on his defense for a while now. Your thoughts on Jordan Poole's performance tonight?
I think Jordan Poole looked much better last night. I don't disagree with you that I think there is, some additional maturity he's showing in some of these performances. Someone tweeted at me the other day saying that I was a Poole hater, a Jordan Poole hater. I wouldn't give him any credit after his performance last night. That's just not true. I mean, I think that it's fair because of the way Jordan Poole has played this season for him to deal with some criticism. I think it's fair. I've seen the fans being a little bit critical, especially of his late game performances. That doesn't mean that I'm a hater. That doesn't mean that anyone who's criticizing that late game execution.
Yeah, you're a hater. You're a hater, Kylen. Just admit it. Just you hate everyone, everything. Well, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
That's the thing. I just feel like sometimes Dub Nation, y'all get a little bit like that where, someone says 1 or 2 critiques of a player and suddenly you're a hater. That's not the case. Jordan Poole deserves his flowers for his performance against the Clippers. First of all, I thought he was outstanding last night. Tonight, I do think there is an extra level of maturity in the way that he was attacking the basket. And last season, throughout his tenure with the Golden State Warriors, I think it's been proven to be true that Jordan Poole is the most successful when he attacks the basket and doesn't just force up threes. Sure, if you're wide open, if you're getting it, off a screen in a wide open situation, shoot the three ball. I'm not saying he shouldn't shoot it at all, but I just feel like some games we see him forcing up those shots, rushing those shots from beyond the arc and not attacking the way that he can attack. And he has such an explosive first step. Jordan Poole can blow by so many players in this league. And that's what you love to see, is him getting to the free throw line 12 times in tonight's game, also 12 times in the Clippers game as well. That's where I think that we're seeing Jordan Poole's at his best, is when he is attacking the basket. And I love to see that from him. If he keeps doing that, I think he's going to continue to be successful and contribute for the Warriors. You mentioned defensive effort, also huge for Jordan Poole. My only critique of him tonight was that late game possession where Donte DiVincenzo ended up pulling in the board and Jonathan Kuminga had that massive dunk that was so fun to watch. But like the step back three under pressure from Jordan Poole after he hadn't made a triple all night, when you're, the clock's winding down, but you still had plenty of time on the shot clock, I was kind of like, unnecessary. So I still think a little bit of composure in fourth quarter is maybe the area to improve, but I liked his performance both last night and tonight, and I like the way he's attacking.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. Trey Dunn writes in the chat, 3 seed book it. I don't know if that's the case. But look, the Warriors right now have a firm grasp of the 5 seed right now. They're 34-30, 4 games over 500. I don't know if they've been this good all season. I don't think so. So they're a game ahead of the Mavericks, who are the 6th. They're a game behind the Suns, who won tonight. Had a chance to look at that box score. I don't think the Suns, by the way, are deep enough to win the title this year. I don't. But then the Sacramento Kings, someone just called me a Kings hater. I don't know why they said that. I have nothing against Kings. I just don't think they're going to pose a serious challenge to the Warriors if they play each other. The Kings, I feel like, have that 3rd seed locked up, though. They won tonight again. I think, who did they beat? The Clippers, I believe. I think they that's who they played and beat in a close game. The Kings are in the 3rd seed right now, 4 games ahead of the Golden State Warriors. But look, the Warriors are surging. This is a very good thing. You tweeted about Donte DiVincenzo. Speaking of players who don't really show up on the box score, I absolutely, look, you praise Bob Myers on Twitter. I agree. And again, you can follow Kylen Mills on Twitter at Kylen Mills. What a steal for the amount of money they're paying him. He's probably gone after this year. We can talk about that if we want in a moment. But tonight, again, he recognized the shot wasn't there. And his cognizance of his shooting is what Poole, I feel like, it's getting there. It's not there yet, but he's starting to become more and more aware when the shot's not falling to start focusing on other parts of the game. DiVincenzo only had 3 3-point attempts, made the 3rd one, that huge one at the end. Only had 3 points tonight, but he did have 6 assists and 7 rebounds. He's been a rebounding machine. Your thoughts on Donte DiVincenzo tonight, who I absolutely love. The dude's a winner.
We've been talking about this. I know we both have been singing his praises all season long, Cyrus. These last 2 games, just to me, further prove how indispensable Donte DiVincenzo is to the Warriors. And he doesn't bring scoring. But the good thing is the Warriors don't necessarily need scoring. They have so many scorers. They need a player who does all the things that Donte DiVincenzo does, which is plays exceptional defense, plays strong perimeter defense, grabs those rebounds like you were just mentioning. He had 11 in last night's game against the Clippers. He makes the hustle plays. He gets steals. He sets up teammates and typically racks up quite a few assists, or at least he has in performances throughout the season. I don't remember what his final number was tonight. 6. So still a good number of assists in the performance tonight. Assists, I was saying. 6, he does a good job. I like the way that he facilitates. And then just in general, I think he does a good job taking care of the basketball. Like when it comes down to the wire, fourth quarter, and with Steph Curry out, like I feel confident with Donte DiVincenzo bringing the ball up and taking care of the basketball and setting up the offense. Like I feel confident in him doing that because of, just how steady he's been for this team. He's been so reliable. He's come in and just been very consistent in his performances and what he does and all those intangibles. Shooting, not necessarily consistent, but it's all the other things he does that the Warriors need, which make him such a great fit with this group. I would love to see him stick around, but it is highly, highly unlikely. He has a player option after this season, and more than likely he's going to be paid much more somewhere else. And I believe I'll have to look into more of what the stipulations are if he's, what the ranges that the Warriors can pay him depending on some of the mid-level exception rules. So I got to look into that because I don't know that off the top of my head, but more than likely. Okay. So, then you can tell the people, but I was going to say more than likely he'll get paid more elsewhere. And that's why it'll be tough to keep Donte DiVincenzo around.
Yeah, I did the research, and long story short, the bottom line is because the Warriors are so far over the cap, um, they can't do much. It really sucks because bird rights apply for if you let's say you have a player. Let me rephrase this. The Warriors don't have his bird rights. They're not going to have his full bird rights, I think, until his third year. They lucked out with Gary Payne II, for example, because of the calendar. When they originally signed Gary Payne II, it was right around like January, which had just come after some cutoff date, which allowed them ultimately, if they had wanted to, when he was a free agent, to offer him, I think, like 10 plus $million. They obviously didn't do it. They had to trade for him this year. So basically the max they can offer DiVincenzo after this year, I think it's a 10% increase on his salary now. The better offer they could do for DiVincenzo would be, because he's going to opt out. He has a player option for next year, is he's going to be a free agent in all likelihood. And then the best the Warriors can do is offer him another mid-level exception. That, as far as I know, is the best chance they have of getting him back. Now, if another team out there is, and the mid-level exception could be a good number. It could be like $9 million a year, could maybe even be $10 million a year. And Ray, right, for example, right, the mid-level exception will be $7 million, but we don't know that for sure. That number has not been set in stone. So if it is $7 million, like Ray's saying in our chat, hypothetically, that's all they could offer him. But they're paying him $4.5 million right now, so it's still a considerable bump from that. But they might lose him now. Bobby Portis with the Bucks was in a similar situation where after his first year, he signed for a low dollar amount. They loved him. He wanted to stay in Milwaukee, and they did like a verbal handshake deal where they basically told Bobby Portis, look, like if you agree to a second year deal that isn't much, we'll eventually give you the money you want. And it worked out. And if the Warriors can work that out with Donte DiVincenzo, I'm all for it. But I don't know if that's going to happen. So that's what's going on with Donte DiVincenzo. I'll find the exact number, but my understanding is it's like a 10% bump that they could offer him, which isn't much. It's, the mid-level exception will be a lot more. Wait, what? Why did you hit your dog? Where did that come from, Dennis B, in the chat? That just caught my attention. I should not be distracted by chat questions, but dog abuse, that catches my eye. That's random. Anyways, we'll be back in just a minute. Kylen, any clue where that came from? That was just a really random chat comment. Who's beating their dog, man? Shame on you if you're beating your dog. We did not.
I know it's been wandering around in the background, but I've never hit my dog.
Does he look beaten? Sorry, I shouldn't even laugh about that.
We got up and ran out. He was over this conversation, but
right.
He's very spoiled.
Today's show is brought to you by Nissan. And Kylen, I'm going to let you decide who Nissan's most electric player of the week is. It's brought to you by the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Aria. We now have this awesome layout for the YouTube show. Kylen, I'll give it to you. Who is our Nissan most electric player of the week?
Our Nissan most electric player of the week is Jonathan Kuminga because of his performances in these two games. I know we were just singing the praises of Donte DiVincenzo, but how about JK coming off the bench with 19 points in this win, 7 boards, 4 steals, 1 block. He was electric is the best way to describe it.
Hell yeah. I'm a great call on that. Kaminga has been on fire, and when we come back, we're going to talk about him because there's some great stats pertaining to his progression this season. Look, he's been electric. He's been brilliantly fierce. He's been fiercely elegant. These are all the taglines that we're supposed to use correlating to the 2023 Nissan Aria. Elegantly powerful. I think that's a great way to describe Jonathan Kaminga. The 2023 Nissan Aria packs pin you to your seat power and premium intelligence all in one electric vehicle. The all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Aria, the electric vehicle for people who love to drive. Shop now at nissanusa.com.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Kylen Mills on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and more at her name, Kylen Mills. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at DogSurf Roadshow. Jonathan Kuminga, in his last 4 games, this is impressive to me. And watching this kid grow right before our eyes is such a beautiful thing. He's still only 20 years old. He's not going to be able to legally buy a beer in the United States until October. That's how young he is. In the last 4 games, he's averaged 16.8 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game, 2.3 steals per game. He has shot 64% from the field. He has shot 71% from 3. His plus minus in the last 4 games, plus 40. And tonight he played 32 minutes and really was such a key difference. And I have to give Steve Kerr massive kudos for those 32 minutes. I've been begging Coach Kerr all year, even last year, that the more Kaminga plays, the more good things happen. That's not the exact line, but you get my drift. Tonight, 32 minutes, 19 points, plus 13 in the differential, 7 rebounds, even added 4 steals and a block. How do you feel, Kylen Mills, about Jonathan Kuminga?
Like I said, he's been electric the last 2 nights and beyond just the last 2 nights, Cyrus. I like that you brought up the last 4 games. I just feel like Jonathan Kuminga keeps getting better and better. I've been singing his praises on this show a lot recently, and for good reason. I mean, the way that he finishes around the rim is just absolutely fun to watch. The way he dunks with so much authority. And then he's starting to get better at the footwork on some of his finishes. I think we saw him with a little Euro step at one point tonight. He's getting his pump fakes down around the basket. And then I mentioned the mid-range game we've seen from him recently. And he's playing with a lot of confidence in the mid-range, hitting shots off the dribble. To me, his game is just continuing to elevate and expand. And that's what's so exciting. It's hard to remember, to keep in mind that Jonathan Kuminga is only 20 years old. And he's a player who didn't play even 1 season in college. He opted to play with the G League Ignite, that developmental team that the NBA was experimenting with. It was the first season they ever did that when Jonathan Kuminga joined the league. And that wasn't even the equivalent of an entire college season. And he's 20 years old and he's playing like this right now. I think it's scary for the rest of the NBA. His defense has greatly improved this season. He's starting to put it all together. And it's just freaking fun to watch. It is fun to watch.
It is. He's an absolute joy to watch. I love the kid. I'm incredibly happy about that. Shifting gears real quick here for a second. Where are we on the clock? Okay, 17 minutes. We have time for this right now. Klay Thompson, to me, has been exemplary. He's finally looking like his old self. I feel like Klay Thompson, before he tore his ACL, was progressing at a clip where he was on the verge of being like a superstar in the NBA. He's already a future Hall of Famer. I thought he got completely screwed out of being on the NBA 75th anniversary team. I thought he belonged certainly over Russell Westbrook. Certainly, I thought over Anthony Davis. That's just my opinion. But despite that, like, we've never really known him as being a superstar player who could like take over a team, who could take over a game individually on a consistent basis. I mean, I know he's had the 60-point game. I know he's had some huge games, but it's never or rarely been consistent. It's rarely been like a night in, night out thing. And he's always considered to be kind of an afterthought on this Warriors team. When you consider that Stephen Curry usually is the star of the show, people even consider Andrew Wiggins to be the second best player over him. But Klay this year is really starting to look like the Klay that everyone envisioned was going to emerge, again, before he blew out his ACL in the 2019 NBA Finals. Tonight, he led the team in scoring, 27 points, played 34 minutes, was 4 for 9 from beyond the arc, added 4 assists. And I thought most importantly, this was the second of a back-to-back. The Warriors missed him on a lot of back-to-backs earlier this season. He got the green light. I think this is like his 3rd or 4th back-to-back that he's now played in, and he looked good. What are you thinking about Klay Thompson? Because what I'm seeing is art. It's absolutely what I want to see. I'm happy, Kylen. What do you think?
I think Dubs fans should be happy with what they're seeing from Klay Thompson. Someone mentioned in the chat that it looks like his lateral step has gotten better and a little bit quicker, and that he's even been picking it up on defense. And I actually totally agree.
Yeah.
However, offensively, I'm also really excited about what we're seeing from Klay Thompson. Shooting numbers have been good, but what has impressed me most was the rebounding. Last night, 11 boards. And that was something he was asked about in postgame. And he said he has been really intentional in trying to rebound and also just in general trying to lead the Warriors in Steph Curry's absence. Klay Thompson has brought just a totally different energy. He's brought a different level of fight. Like, you can see the way he's carrying himself, the confidence, the body language. It's so important to watch that. And I've noticed a difference between Klay earlier in the season and Klay now, the Klay we're
Yeah.
seeing with this current group. He has absolutely taken ownership of this team. And that's just, to me, such a huge and positive step moving forward for Klay Thompson that tells me that he is back. He is back, however you want to look at it. But the way that he's crashing the boards really hard has stood out to me, in addition to some defensive improvements. I think he's shooting the ball well right now. He's had several assists both tonight and last night, getting it done defensively. Last night, he had 2 steals and a block, I remember. Tonight, just 1 steal. But still, I think he's getting it done on the defensive end. So very encouraging to see this from one side of the Splash Brothers. Now we're going to add the other Splash Brother into the mix. And that's what's so exciting about what we're seeing from Klay. If he can continue this level and also the leadership we're seeing alongside Steph Curry, I think that this Golden State Warriors team is going to be very scary going into the postseason.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. When we come back, we're going to talk about the upcoming road trip. That still remains something that the Warriors have to overcome, these road struggles. They own the 5th worst record in the NBA, the 3rd worst record in the Western Conference when it comes to playing on the road. That has to turn around, right? If the Warriors are going to be a legitimate contender for a repeat world championship, it's got to start Sunday in LA. Have to add, by the way, the Warriors have won 4 straight games after trailing by 10 plus points in each of those games for the first time since at least 1997, 1998. So what they have done these last 4 games is pretty historic. And again, I'm really loving the fact that we're seeing the 3rd quarter Warriors back. That's what makes me see this Warriors team resemble like the dynasty is you see them going to the half. All they need is just a little momentum, and they go into the half, and you can just feel that they're going to come out and just eviscerate the opposition. And I just love that this Warriors team is back in that regard. So we'll talk about that. I want to ask your opinion as well about JaMychal Green, because you watched him more closely than I did. We talked about this before we started recording. I'm just a little stumped and confused as to why he didn't play much in the second half, because I do think he can contribute, and he might be the 10th man off the bench in the rotation in the playoffs. So we'll talk about JaMychal, the upcoming road trip, and so much more after we give some love to one of our longtime sponsors, who the Warriors clearly were involved with tonight in terms of munching them down, and that's Built Bar. I know, Kylen, I owe you a box. They'll come soon, I promise. But in the meantime, folks, if you're trying to find something healthy, relatively healthy, we're talking low calories, on average 130 per bar. We're talking low sugar, only 4 grams of sugar on average per bar, and sugar is awful for you, folks. It is literally a carcinogen, and it's packed with protein, 17 grams of protein, in fact, while covered in 100% real chocolate. They also make some incredible flavors: churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. I'm all about chocolate granola myself. And they taste like a candy bar. That's one of the best parts. And super healthy, low sugar, tons of protein. It fills you up if you're trying to eat something light without consuming a lot of calories, but you want to feel full. Order your Built Bars either at Built.com, and they're also available now at Walmart, where you can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs, or go to Sam's Club and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank us later.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. One final segment with Kylen Mills and myself. You can follow Kylen on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Kylen Mills. I want to play this soundbite from Steve Kerr. He was just doing a post-game presser, and he was talking about the development of Jonathan Kuminga. Let's hear what he has to say.
You gave Kaminga, I think, 32 minutes. What did you see from him early, and maybe what was based on matchup that you liked from him tonight?
Well, this was one of his best games. So was last night. I mean, he's making some strides. Offensively, I liked that he was going to the rim and cutting and finding his way there. I thought the play of the game was Donte's offensive board, and then JK cut behind the play and got the dunk. But, the more he can attack and use his athleticism offensively, the better. And I think he's doing that. And then defensively, he's by far our best option on Ingram. And I thought he had a great game defensively. And so it was fun to watch him play tonight. It's fun to see his development continue.
And thank you, Coach Kerr, for playing him. Any thoughts, Kylen, on that soundbite we just played?
I mean, I think Steve's absolutely right. I know, Cyrus, you and I both have been a little critical of Steve Kerr at times this season. That's a statement I wholeheartedly agree with. I think these were Jonathan Kuminga's best 2 performances of the year. I know you mentioned some of his stats in the last 4 games. He's getting better and he's playing some of his best basketball. And that's what's so exciting to watch, is that I think that the best is still yet to come for Jonathan Kuminga, and he's just continuing to rise like this. So scary hours for the rest of the NBA. I'm excited to see what he does in the postseason.
Absolutely. Look at Douglas Mike thrown in the chat, by the way. And Iguodala mentioned like hopefully Steph and Wiggins don't look too rusty when they come back, and we have time to integrate GP2 and Iguodala. You're writing this like Iguodala is going to actually play. Do you think we're going to see Iguodala this year, Kylen, at all?
So Steve Kerr has said in the last day that Andre Iguodala has scrimmaged with the team recently. Scrimmaged with the team in the last week. I assume it's with the hopes that he could potentially play at some point. But I'm not convinced that Andre Iguodala is going to be able to be a regular contributor in the postseason. I just don't know that his body can handle the rigors of the NBA schedule. To me, it looked like the Warriors were trying to, save him, rest him during the first half of the season. They tried him out by playing him in a couple of those games in mid-January, and his body didn't respond well since he has not played since. And so my concerns are just whether or not he could handle putting together a stretch of games. I mean, when we have seen Andre Iguodala, and even what we saw last season, like, he still can play when he can get out there, but if he's not healthy enough to even step on the floor, then, it does no good. So I'm excited to hear that he's been scrimmaging, but I'm just still skeptical that he could actually, maintain that level of health over the course of a series of games or several postseason series.
Absolutely. I think one piece of advice, I don't know if you agree with me on this or not, Kylen, don't dunk the ball. I mean, you're officially an elderly individual, Andre. We love you. Don't dunk the ball. I mean, your body just can't handle it, because it seems like every time you do, it's just your neck.
Oh, my neck, my back, my neck and my back. Oh.
Yeah, so no more dunking for Andre Iguodala. The Warriors are about to go on the road again, and that's been it's the huge stain on their record this season. On the road, they are just 7-23. To put it in perspective, the only teams worst in the NBA on the road are the Rockets, the San Antonio Spurs, the Detroit Pistons, and the Charlotte Hornets. That's it. The Warriors are in that group when it comes to road games. They've got to turn it around. They got a 3-game set coming up where they're playing the Lakers this Sunday. We might see Steph. The Thunder are going to be on this road trip, and then the Memphis Grizzlies. Let's start with LA. What do you see there? I mean, any inclination that we might see Steph? Do you think it's going to be a cakewalk given the Lakers are fairly injured? There's going to be no LeBron. Your thoughts on the huge Sunday nationally televised game on ABC?
I'm excited to see how this matchup plays out. There are reports that Steph Curry is supposed to return. I mean, he's been back at practice and he's been able to participate. So the hope is that we do see him. The big question mark to me, just beyond the Lakers, I know they're going to be shorthanded, but to me, none of that matters if the Warriors can execute on the road. And that's been the big problem this season. I mean, they have played down to the level of their opponents on the road, regardless of who it is. I mean, you're looking at the Pistons and you're like, why are we playing like this against the Pistons when we can beat the Celtics and beat the Grizzlies and beat some of the best teams in the NBA? So more than just looking at, some of the matchups with the opponents, I'm looking at how the Warriors are going to respond and carry this energy into a road matchup. They, for whatever reason, have not been able to do it this season. And it's been baffling to me. I mean, people ask and wonder and, make conjectures on Twitter about why, but I mean, it's really hard to come up with a clear answer. And it's something that Steve Kerr hasn't been able to answer all season. Why have the Warriors struggled so much on the road? Why have they had the worst road record of any team in the NBA when they have all these veterans who should be used to, the rigors of going on the road and getting into that routine? So, to me, it's just how they respond from here on out. Can they carry this energy, this chemistry, all the things they've been doing so well into a road environment? And it's hard to say, given that, no one knows exactly why they've struggled so much this season. I will say this Warriors team right now feels different than the Warriors team we saw even just before the All-Star break. So given that, I'm hopeful that just the vibes that the Warriors have got right now, some people have said just having GP2 back on the bench is what's made the difference. But I'm hopeful that whatever the vibes are that are working, it will now translate on the road. But that remains to be
and speaking of, I'm glad you brought up GP2 because LR is all about the bromance between Steph and GP2 on the sidelines. I think we've all seen it watching these games. It makes me giddy. Just the fact that Gary Payton II is back with his team. Are you seeing that as well? I mean, and for me, chemistry is so huge. It's a variable that is just not talked about enough when it comes to the Warriors and their success during this dynasty. And Gary Payton II has become a part of it. I'm so happy he's back. I love seeing him just sitting there in plain clothes. Would rather have that than nothing at all. What are your thoughts on the bromance there and just the party going on in the bench?
Oh, I've been tweeting nonstop about the bromance, the Steph Curry GP2 bromance. I mean, what's not to love? Those two are, first of all, hysterical on the bench with their celebration antics. There were a couple videos tweeted to them, mocking Jordan Poole, talking to the refs with little hand movements. That was cracking me up. I mean, I just think that Gary Payton II is a factor in the vibe shifting on the Warriors. Whether he's the entire reason behind the latest winning streak, I don't know that I can go that far, but I do think that having him on the bench is a factor that's helping pump up this group. And you look at one of the main differences from last season to this season, you talk about some of the changeover in the role players, the vets the Warriors had last season, is that the bench vibes last season were immaculate. This season, it just hasn't really felt the same. I mean, even just like Juan Toscano-Anderson, Damian Lee, players who maybe weren't consistently rotation players getting minutes, they brought the energy on the bench. And there is something to be said for that in how it affects the players on the court. And you mentioned on-court chemistry. Yeah, absolutely huge. But also that bench chemistry and the energy the bench brings totally bleeds over into the play on the court. And I do think the Warriors lost some of that with some of the pieces that they gave up and that they let walk in the offseason. And I do believe that Gary Payton II brings some of that back. I mean, you just see his celebrations. He's up on his feet throughout the game. And Steph Curry is the same way. And Curry has been that way, throughout his career. But I just think the fact that those two are now together on the bench, they're kind of fueling each other, fueling the fire for both. But it's bringing a different energy to the entire team. And I do believe it affects the chemistry that we see on the floor. I'm glad that Steph's going to be getting back to playing, but, I do still think that energy from the bench makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I'm wholeheartedly with you. Times are good when Klay Thompson's making paper airplanes during his post-game press conference. I'm really happy that this was published in time before we called it a night. Here is Klay Thompson talking about that bench while holding his infamous paper airplane.
Klay, you've had to carry this team offensively in stretches during this win streak. Jordan did it last night, but to see that the bench outscored New Orleans' bench 46-29 tonight, what does that say to you?
Wow, our bench has come so far, and these guys have been sticking with it. I mean, JaMychal Green, what a great minutes he gave us tonight. 3 block shots, finishing at the rim, and our bench has really improved, and as we get whole again, it's just going to pay off so much down the stretch.
Yeah, dude, he's such a stoner. I love him. He's just I feel like he's just so genuine, right? Like what you see with Klay is who he is, right? He's never faking it. I don't know. Any reaction to that from your end?
You and Klay are like kindred spirits or something. I swear, you do got that little surfer vibe going. The surfer vibe and the bulldog love going. I mean, I'm happy Klay Thompson is playing well. He's, like I said, bringing some better energy, body language, leadership to the Warriors. I do agree with him that I think JaMychal Green was really good tonight. And I know that you had kind of mentioned he didn't get a lot of minutes in the second half. And I thought that was curious because I thought JaMychal Green looked good in the first half. He's a player that I haven't really exactly figured out how to put my finger on. And I tweeted about this because I do feel like he has been inconsistent. I know that you somewhat disagree with me on that, but I do feel like JaMychal Green has been a little bit up and down, but he was really good tonight. So I'll second Klay on that comment. But whether Klay's a stoner or not, I don't know, but he plays beautiful basketball, and that's enough to make me happy.
Yes, he does. Well, he was in that video the other day the Warriors put out about who would be the worst babysitter on the team, and And just hearing the players almost universally call out Klay. A few said Kaminga, like Klay said Kaminga, but everyone else said Klay would be the worst just because he would just forget there was even a baby in the room. So hearing them say that is just, yeah, he's clearly just an in the moment kind of guy who it's whatever he's focused on. I imagine it's awesome. That's all I can say. Yeah, it is weird that JaMychal Green though was pulled. I personally think if you gave JaMychal Green 15 to 20 minutes a night consistently, if you made him like a permanent part of the rotation where he knew what minutes he was coming in the first and second half and he played those minutes every time, he would come through. And he's one of the very few bigs on this team at 6'8", 6'9". I personally think he should play. He's got the wrist issue, which has affected his three-point shot, but he still gives you defense. He's not a liability defensively. He can rebound. It feels like he's grasped Kerr's system offensively. So even when the three's not falling, I don't think he's a liability, but that's just my opinion on it. I don't know, but it was weird. I thought that he didn't play in the second half. Let's finish up on this note. What's your prediction for the road trip? They got 3 games, the Lakers Sunday, the Thunder Tuesday, and I think the Grizzlies Thursday. By the way, they only have one more back-to-back the rest of the season. That is huge. I'm really stoked on that. But what's your prediction for the road trip before we go? We'll end on that note.
I mean, because the Warriors have struggled on the road, I'm hesitant to say 3-0, but I think all 3 are winnable games. I really do. And especially if Steph Curry's back, like, I think they're all winnable. Trying to be a little bit more realistic, like I said, given the road struggles, I guess maybe I'm going to say 2-1 on the road trip. But the Warriors have the Grizzlies number. So, and especially if Steph's back, I kind of feel like they're going to win that game. They should win the game against Oklahoma City. And then that only leaves the Lakers. And I also really feel like they should get it done against the Lakers, who you mentioned are shorthanded. But I don't know. I just feel like for them to go 3-0 on a road trip when they have the worst road record in the NBA is still a little bit of a stretch. So I'm just going to say 2-1 to play it safe. And someone just said Grizz on the road winnable. Dude, like, I know it's the Grizzlies. They're good. And obviously the road environment's much more tough. But, like, for whatever reason, like, the Warriors have had the Grizzlies number. Like, earlier in the season, the Warriors were playing terrible. Then all of a sudden they come out and look like a different team against the Grizzlies. Yep. I don't know what it is. But, you know, maybe that could be the game they drop on the road. I'm going to say 2-1 on the road trip.
Yeah, the Grizzlies bring out the best of the Warriors. And
they do. That's what I'm saying. They really do.
Yeah, and they can't stop running their mouth. Like Dylan Brooks, I don't know if you saw that interview with Tim Cohen of ESPN where he just flat out said he doesn't like Draymond Green.
Yeah.
And then they asked Draymond for comment, and he wouldn't. He said the story claimed that Draymond laughed when he heard what Dylan Brooks said. But again, the Warriors take all of these comments to heart. They use it as motivation. I don't understand why the Grizzlies continue running their mouths like this. I love it because all it does is incentivize the Warriors. I think they're going to win that game just almost entirely just for that reason alone, because that Dylan Brooks comment is going to be taped all over that locker room. So yeah, it is fascinating. Did you read that Dylan Brooks?
Yeah, I read that, and poking the bear that is Draymond Green. I don't see how that's a good idea. Right. But I'm excited to see how that one plays out because, you know, give the Warriors more fuel for the fire, give them more motivation, see what happens.
Absolutely. Friday Night Live, I think, was a success, a celebratory show. Any exciting plans, Kylen, this weekend? What have you got going on?
Work. Got a basketball game tomorrow on Spectrum Sportsnet LA. If anyone's located in SoCal, I'll be on tomorrow at 1:00. And then I got a softball game on Pac-12 Plus on Sunday at Stanford. So fun. Work on the weekends.
Yeah, you're busy.
Sport, so you know how it is. How about you, Cy?
It's fun work though, right, Kylen?
It is.
There's a lot of other jobs out there. I think that would not be nearly as fun. I'm gonna sleep. This has been one of the longest weeks of my life. I'm just gonna sleep and just kick it with my bulldog, take him to the beach, maybe. That's it. Yeah, folks, the Warriors are back, baby. I think it's safe to say 5-game winning streak. They're in 5th place right now. Game ahead of the Mavericks, who are sitting in 6th. The game behind the Suns, who are sitting in 4th. They play the Lakers this Sunday. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Dubs. That's the official Twitter account for this show. We'll let you know when our next show is, most likely Sunday after that Lakers game, but we won't know until later if Kylen's going to join me. Unless you know now. Do you know now, or to be TBD?
Probably cannot do Sunday. I've got a ton going on in a game I'm working. So
I hear you. Yeah, what are you going to do? So but regardless, I'll have a show for you folks Sunday after the game. And then, like I said, follow us on Twitter. We'll announce when we're doing shows. Great homestand. 5-0, baby. So the Warriors are looking good. Bravo. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you, Kylen. Thank you, everyone else. Are we done? Anything you want to add? Are we all good? Time to go out? Bye-bye. Later.